Beer Tip of the Week is brought to you by theBeerean.com, the beer blog read by tens of Christians everywhere, and Simple Cocktails at Home, the perfect starter guide for home bartending.
Welcome to Beer Tip of the Week. My name's Greg Qualls, and I'm your host. Beer Tip of the Week is designed for the person out there who wants to do more than just drink their beer, but enjoy their beer drinking experience. Every week I bring you a simple tip to help you do just that. This week we are in the Qualls test kitchen, and I'm going to show you how you can make your honey swoon with a can of beer and a block of cheese. Beer, 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 beer. Welcome back to the Qualls Test Kitchen. If you haven't figured it out yet, this is actually going to be a cooking session to a certain extent. What better way to enjoy your beer than to cook with it? Now, I'm talking more than just drinking while you eat, but actually using beer as an ingredient in your food. So this week, I'm going to be teaching you how to cook fondue. It's Valentine's Day weekend, and I know a few of you guys out there have not made any plans yet, so here is your last Hail Mary chance to come up with a meal for your honey. Probably save you a few bucks too, because if you were to go to a restaurant that specialized in fondue, one that had a pot and melted stuff in it, you would be paying a lot of money for this. Whereas if you just make the fondue yourself, and it's super easy, gentlemen and ladies, if you're out there and wanting to learn this, it's super simple, and you can do it yourself. So let's first start off with the ingredients. So here's the list of ingredients that you are going to need prior to making your fondue. You will need some medium cheddar cheese. I like to use the Tillamook. You are going to need some Swiss cheese. I really like the Jarlsberg. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but that's what we use. You are going to need a quarter of a cup of flour. You are going to need a loaf of sourdough bread, or I've also used rosemary bread. Pretty much any just good hearty artisan bread should work for this, but sourdough bread is really good, goes well with the cheese. You are going to need one green apple cut into cubes. I guess that's how you would say that, not diced, but cut. And you will need a clove of garlic. We'll get to that later. And 2 beers. One, of course, is for the fondue. This is what we're talking about. I'm going to be using this Simpler Times lager from Trader Joe's. Just a simple lager to give this cheese fondue. I don't want to overpower the flavor of it. I just want something simple. And a beer to drink while making your fondue. I'm going to be drinking Murphy's Red Ale tonight, trying that out as we make this fondue. So, let's get to cooking. Now that you know what you're going to need, you've run out to the store, you've come back, let's start off with the very first step. The first thing you're going to need to do is to pour yourself a beer to drink while doing this. Nothing says cooking like drinking beer while you're doing it. As I said earlier, we're going to be trying Murphy's Red Ale here. It's not even just Murphy's Red Ale, it's Murphy's Premium Red Ale. Let's pour this and see how it comes out. I'll tell you how I like this as we go about. I've got to keep this kind of short because I only got 15 minutes on YouTube right now. But that looks like a beautiful beer right there. Nice reddish color, good head on it. I think I'm going to enjoy this. Take a nice little sniff. It smells good. Nice, clean flavors there. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm going to drink it. Murphy's Red Ale is a winner. Okay, so first step for making your fondue. You need to turn on your oven to broil. We're going to be toasting your sourdough bread. Other than that, so that's your first thing. Turn your oven on to the broil setting. Mine says it's at 525 while it does that. And let's cut the bread. Here's how you're going to want to cut the bread. I'll show you with my handy little flip cam here. You are going to want to cut it horizontally, that'd be horizontally, across lengthwise. We're going for about 1-inch cubes when this is all said and done. I'm only using half the loaf of bread here because it's only 3 of us eating tonight, me and Shannon and Asa. And so you are just going to do this. If you're just eating with your honey, you're probably going to need half a loaf of bread anyways too. So cut it lengthwise and then cut it across on the diagonal. give me a second and we'll show you what that looks like when it's all done. So here's what that looks like when it's done. You're going to want to put it on a cookie sheet. You want to make sure whenever you put it on here, also make sure the crust is down, because what we're trying to do is get a nice good crust on the top here, just give it a little bit of toastiness to it. If you don't do this, it will fall apart in the fondue. You don't want to do that. Nobody wants soggy bread in fondue. So once you get that all on your cookie sheet laid out, crust side down, you're going to want to put it into your oven that has it set on to broil. I put it on the bottom rack a little bit farther away because we're actually kind of toasting and drying out the bread at the same time. Okay, now, while the bread is toasting in the oven, what you want to do is start working on everything else. So the first thing we're going to do is we are actually going to cut up our cheese into blocks, which I just realized I'm going to need that cutting board again. Probably about half a pound each on this. I kind of guess it, eyeball it a little bit, but probably about a half a pound. So of this huge block of cheese, I'm only going to take off about a quarter of it. And the same with the Jarlsberg cheese. Just take off, about a quarter of it. And then what you do is you shred it in, we have a Cuisinart that you can shred it in, but you could also use a hand grater if you wanted to do it that way too. And so let me show you what that looks like. Okay, once your cheese is all shredded, grated, whatever you want to call it, you're going to put it into a separate bowl here. And then take some of your flour here. You won't need all of it, but just what you want to do is you want to lightly coat the cheese. This is going to do two different things. One, it's going to keep your cheese from getting all stuck together in one big lump in the bowl. But then on top of that, what it's going to do is as you put the cheese into the beer in the fondue pot, it's going to keep the whole thing from, basically, it's going to make your fondue kind of creamier, I should say. That would be the best deal. If you don't put this in there, what's going to happen is your fondue is going to have, the beer is going to get a little bit cheesy flavor, but then all the cheese that you put in there is just going to solidify into one big lump. So now that we got that ready, come back over here, turn that off. So as you see, I put an apron on because I got flour all over the place here. Now what we're going to do, as we got the bread toasting, the cheese is all ready, I'm drinking my beer. Definitely recommend that. That's a very good beer. I have tiny hints of cinnamon in there. I don't know why I said that, but I just had to. Anyways, so the garlic, what's the garlic for? Well, what you're going to do is cut it in half, not lengthwise, but horizontal across the deal. Take your fondue pot. And by the way, if you can ever find a fondue pot like this from the 70s, buy it immediately. I recommend looking at Goodwill for all of them. It works great. It's just a nice electric fondue pot. Works good for any kind of fondue you want to do. We're doing cheese fondue, so there's a bunch of them. But you're going to take the flat part that you just cut off, the exposed part, and you're going to rub down the inside of your pan with that garlic. Cover every nook and cranny in there, across the bottom, on the sides, all around. What this does is it just gives a nice little infusion of garlic flavor to your fondue, but not being too overwhelming. Sometimes I actually mince up the remainder, whatever you want to call that, of the garlic and toss it into the fondue pot as well. So let me check on our bread real quick, and our bread is done. So let me grab a pot holder here real quick from the side, pull that out. Turn off the oven. As you can see, it is a nice golden brown. So, completely ready to go there. So we set that off to the side. In fact, actually, I'm going to put that into a bowl all by itself. And that is ready to be used for the fondue. So, we got bread. The apples will be for dipping in your fondue already too. We've got the pot. I'm going to turn that up to medium, get it good and going. We've got cheese ready. we're ready to make some fondue. All the prep work is done. So turn the fondue pot up to medium. It's already been rubbed down with garlic. And you're going to take your can of beer. And for this, I'm not making a whole lot of fondue, so I'm only going to probably use about half the can of beer here. You don't want to use all of it, otherwise your fondue gets a little bit too soupy. I know I say to drink from glass. I'm going to try this just for the heck of it from the can. Not bad. It's a simple lager. That's all it is. I don't know if I'd sit down. That's a good, like, that's a grass mowing beer. That's what that is right there. Ooh, that's good. Oh, there's about 4 inches of snow outside, but taking a drink of this automatically, I just feel like I've just got done mowing my yard. It's about 102 degrees outside because I live in Albuquerque, and I'm just sitting in one of my lounge chairs looking at a job well done. That is good. I recommend Simpler Times Lager. Oh, that's good. 6.2% alcohol by volume. Any other information on here? By the way, I'm not just rambling here. I'm waiting for my beer to warm up. You want to get it nice and warm before you start adding cheese to it, or else, yeah, the cheese doesn't melt. You just have cheese floating around in there. Oh, I like that a lot. Hello, Simpler Times. You are my new friend. Ooh, Simpler Times beer. Man, we just got 2 winners tonight. Murphy's Red Ale and Simpler Times Lager. I am going to need a spatula, so let me grab one from over here. Just a nice simple spatula, because what we're going to do is, as we add the cheese in there, we're going to stir it. Let me get this out of the way. While we're doing this, do a little prep cleanup, and I think we're getting close. We'll do a simple cross-dissolve transition right now. And we are back. As I was waiting for that to heat up, I noticed something. I think I said this was Simpler Times Lager from Trader Joe's. I bought it at Trader Joe's, but it's actually made by Minhas, M-I-N-H-A-S Craft Brewery in Monroe, Wisconsin since 1845. Highly recommend that. Now, how do you know whenever your beer is ready for cheese to be added to it? If you can't see, there's steam coming up here, and it is starting to boil a little bit. So we know that this is all ready to go, and we can start adding our cheese to it. I will get you a close-up in just a second. Get that a little bit closer, but just start adding cheese a handful at a time. You don't want to do too much more than that, or else it won't melt. So let me get my little flip camera going here and let you see what's going on. So as you can see, we're just adding the cheese and stirring. So we'll add another little clump of cheese here, just a handful at a time. And you're just going to keep doing this while the cheese melts. And you're just going to keep doing this until all the cheese is in there and all of it is melted. So another cross dissolve. Okay, now once you get all your cheese added in there, it's going to be nice, creamy looking like that. See, that is just perfect. And you are ready to eat. Just get your fondue forks out, dip it in there, and go to town. Well, that's all. That's all for this week of Beer Tip of the Week. I hope you enjoyed the cooking session. Oh, before I forget, I just forgot to tell you one big step. Turn down to almost off, low heat, almost off completely, or else you'll start burning your cheese. If it's bubbling a lot, you've got it too much on there. But that's your Beer Tip of the Week. My name's Greg Qualls. I'm your host. If you have any tips or suggestions that you'd like to send in for Beer Tip of the Week, you can email them to gregqualls@thebeerean.com. Actually, that would just be greg@thebeerean.com. And other than that, I'm about to have some fondue. So remember, whether you eat or drink, do it all to the glory of God. And I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day with your honey. And that's all.